is November 5th, only 10 days away from open enrollment, and we're here today with John Ashby. He's going to be doing a presentation on bundling, a profitable marketing strategy, just showing you guys the benefits and techniques, strategies for cross-selling effectively and doing it well for your client. So I'll let him expand more on that, but we're really excited for this webinar. We're really excited for the upcoming open enrollment. So we'll let those people that aren't here yet just trickle in, and we'll get started. So we won't waste any more time. John, it's all yours.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Brent. As some of you probably heard, you were already sitting on this when I was chatting with Mary a little bit. I wasn't pleased with the last webinar, and we knew it was not going to be recorded and or put on the website anyways. But it gave me some insight as to what I wanted to do to try and shorten this up a little bit, plus give you more insight as to what you need to understand from a marketing capacity to give you the confidence you need to get to where you want to be. So let's get started. So bundling, a profitable marketing strategy. The purpose of this webinar is threefold. First is knowledge, thereby giving you the desired level of confidence you need to attain the success you require. And let's take a look at that. I mean, bundling, why do we do it? The principal reason is because of finances referencing a client or a potential client. Half of Americans can't raise $2,000 in 30 days. We went through this the last time. I mean, you can read it, you see it. There's widespread financial weakness in the United States based on a 2011 study. Approximately 1/4 of Americans report they're certainly not able to come up with $2,000 in 30 days. Another 19% would do so only by relying, at least in part, on relatives pawning, selling possessions, or going to payday loans. You know, that's, for all intents and purposes, that's 44% of our populace. Of course, a lot of that, the 25%, are mostly below the 138% of the poverty level that qualifies them for Obamacare. The other 19%, though, are pretty much involved in the middle class, the lower echelon of the middle class. They'll be above that echelon, and they can't come up with $2,000. How are they going to come up with $12,700? I mean, it's there. 2014 Assets and Opportunity Scoreboard findings. All right, 1/4 of the U.S. population earning middle class incomes between $56,000 and $91,000 are liquid asset poor, meaning there's no slack in the family budget, and they have less than 3 months of income and savings. Another 19% net worth asset poor, meaning the few assets they have, a savings account, home, business, car, are overwhelming them by debt. 44% of the middle class now, not 44% of the populace, 44% of the middle class are either liquid or net asset poor. Not a good thing for our country. For most middle class families, wealth has vanished. A new study released by Russell Sage shows that our nation is in decline now. Hopefully, with what just took place in the elections, we can start to rebuild some of that. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows, but at least it's giving us some hope for the future. The median household in 2013 has a net worth or a net median income of $56,335, 43% lower than the median wealth level right before the recession in 2007, 36% lower than a decade ago. Lower. I mean, the jobs that we had that provided these incomes are gone. Now we have to find other jobs that provide these incomes. It's a difficult process, and hopefully it's going to be available out there. But as far as we're concerned right now, they're not there. I mean, our clients are hurting. I mean, you listen to them on the news and they say that We're only down about 8% to 10% in income, but that's because we got two family incomes now. You know, you're not dealing with the Oldsmobile worker that makes 70 grand a year because of overtime, and is the only one working, and the mom's staying home with the kids. It's mom and dad both out working now. There is no overtime anymore. So even from that perspective, that Oldsmobile worker is now making $50,000 a year, not $70,000, because there's no overtime. Okay, very few signs of significant recovery from the losses suffered by American families during the recession. The SAGE numbers show that every income group is still behind where it used to be. If you look at the numbers between 2003 and 2013, you have a clear understanding as to why families with median household incomes are struggling just to keep their heads above water. Wealthy American household before and during the recession in 2013 dollars, $87,000 in 2003, the median income. $98,000 in 2007, $7,000 in 2000, $70,000 in 2009, and $56,000 in 2013. How are these people going to come up with $12,700 from a health insurance perspective with that type of a loss in income? Now we understand why the net worth asset basis is so low. You were making $70,000 4 years ago, and like most Americans, which is sad to say, everybody has possessions equal to their income. They're not making $50,000 and they go up to $70,000 and they put the difference in the bank. They buy possessions that bring them up to the $70,000 level. So what happens with the reverse? Where is the money going to come from to take care of the liabilities that you have? Serious accident or illness medical claims are responsible for more bankruptcies and foreclosures than any other unforeseeable circumstance. In 2010, 1.6 million people declared bankruptcy. 60% of the bankruptcies were due to medical bills or medical situations, whatever you want to call it. 861,664 people lost their homes. 49% of the foreclosures were due to medical problems. 77.9% of the losses had health insurance. Understand our dilemmas. I mean, this actually shows you as to what the last screen showed is factual. I mean, in 2010, incomes were already starting to decline. 77.9% had health insurance. However, all these people that had health insurance couldn't pay the bills. And it's not because, like the federal government wants us to believe, that all these health insurance policies were so bad that nobody could survive without them. It's not the case. Those of us that have been in the business know the quality of the health insurance back at that period of time. And the quality was fairly good for what we were looking at from a marketing perspective. It had nothing to do with the quality of the health care. Granted, there were some crooks out there that created some problems, but that was a minute aspect of our industry. Okay? Most of our clients thanked us for the types of health insurance that we marketed in that time and era. All right? So we have 77% had health insurance. They still had to declare bankruptcy. They still lost their homes. What element was not being protected properly? Are you capable of handling the steep cost of surviving a critical illness or a serious accident? It's impossible to determine the true cost of a serious illness or accident. It's absolutely impossible. I mean, paying the medical bills weren't the problem. Paying the household bills was the problem. So where was the main element of concern should come from? It's loss of income. I mean, you have cancer of the esophagus, or you have colon cancer, or prostate cancer, or breast cancer. In most cases, you're out of work for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And in some instances, based on whether they've got it all, you're going to be out of work again a second time. Where's the money going to come from? 44% of the middle class, not of our nation, of the middle class, can't afford to go outside of their current budget. Where's the money going to come from to pay those bills? So let's look at what we do now. what the minimum costs are. Here's the income brackets. We looked at this. Here's the tax subsidies provided for a family of 4 in those income brackets. Here's the monthly premium for the health insurance coverage. Here's the annual premium for the health insurance coverage. Insurance out-of-pocket costs. Annual out-of-pocket costs for both the premium and the claims basis, and percentage of income on that. How can you make $65,000 a year and you have to spend 28% of your earnings on medical care if a major claim or illness comes up? It can't be done. I mean, these would have to be the most frugal people in the world in order to be able to handle that type of premium as well as that amount of money out of pocket. $125,000 a year, it's not too bad. It's only 17.8% for everything out of pocket. You know, that's always been the scenario. The more money you make, the less things cost. The less out of pocket from a family perspective. All right? But here's another venture to look at with this, or not a venture, but here's another side of the coin that you need to look at. In many instances, they would be able to get the money to fund paying the out-of-pocket costs from retirement, or maybe they just have it laying in a savings plan. They have it in an IRA, they have it in a 401k, whatever it may be. But what happens if you take a lump sum of $12,700 out of a 401k and you're 55 years old? You just threw away $20,000 at a 5% interest rate by the time you turn age 65. $12,700 over 10 years at a 5% interest rate would be worth $20,686. That's a lot of money for retirement. Over 15 years, it's worth $26,402. Over 20 years, it's worth $33,693. Over 25 years, $43,002. And over 30 years, if you're 35 years old and you have a catastrophic claim and you've got to spend $12,700 out of savings or retirement, whatever it may be, I don't care which vehicle it is, okay? You just threw away $54,876. 5% over 30 years on $12,700, it's $54,876. Most of the supplemental benefits that we market to take care of the out-of-pocket expenses referencing a health insurance policy cost $100 or a little less than $100 a month. Okay? If we use that $100 a month figure, we're going to pay a lump sum of capital out of our pocket to take care of those bills. Okay? And we're going to put the money back in our savings account at the rate of $100 per month. It would take 27 years of $100 per month in savings to get back to the $54,876. 27 years at $1,200 per year to get back to the $54,876. To get back to the $43,000, a 25-year figure, it takes 23.5 years. To get back to the $33,000, a 20-year figure, takes 20 years. To get back to the $26,000, a 15-year figure, takes 17.5 years. To get back to $20,000, a 10-year figure, takes 14.5 years. Is it better to fund it out of existing funds and leave your capital in your savings account or in your investment account? By all means it is. It's going to change in the future. This cannot work long term. Understand that element. So what you're doing for your clients now by putting them into supplemental products will benefit them highly long term. Okay? We will have a one-payer system at some point in time in the next 4 to 5 years. Okay? There is no question about that. I mean, if you saw in the news, all of the Republicans, they've been asking, you're going to repeal Obamacare. They're all shying away from that now. They know darn well that they cannot repeal Obamacare. All they can do is hopefully fix pieces of it. And as they fix pieces of it, it's going to lead to a one-payer system. It's going to be identical to the Medicare system that we have currently. So for all intents and purposes, you're doing your client a favor by giving them supplemental benefits, not having to use the out-of-pocket expense required by depleting savings accounts or retirement accounts. And if they don't have any money at all and they don't use the supplemental benefits, I mean, you want to be honest about it? Don't buy any health insurance. You're going to declare bankruptcy anyways. So why are you spending money on health insurance? For what reason? Save it and take care of as many of your miscellaneous benefits as you can handle. If we're going to be honest about it, that's the best approach to the client. Okay. The purpose of this webinar, again, threefold. First is knowledge. Second is to define bundling as to why the products that have a positive synergy with the ACA in protecting one's livelihood or assets should be proposed to all qualifying prospects. Health insurance. Will it really perform up to your expectations? I mean, health insurance by itself is designed for one reason and one reason only. It's to protect against an unforeseeable circumstance, okay, to protect your assets. And we just discussed that. If you have to pull a lump sum out of your investment account, you have to sell a piece of real estate that's an investment property, you have to pull money out of your piggy bank, whatever it may be. I mean, all of your assets, everything that you have here, you're going to deplete. Replacing those assets will cost you thousands and thousands of dollars on a long-term basis. Bundling, by definition, is offering several products for sale as one combined product. It is the common feature in many imperfectly competitive product markets. I want you to think about that. Apparently, some of the people out there attempted to go back after selling the Affordable Care Act and add supplemental products to it. Why didn't that work? Because there's a cost involved in those supplemental products. That cost was not planned for in the beginning. And in most cases, no matter how good you are, and this can be, I mean, you can test all of us as long as I've been in the business. You can test Dan. You can test Mike Murhigh. You can test everybody and their brother out there. You're lucky if you get a 5% closing ratio on that. No matter how good you are, once they've made up their mind on their health insurance, they're not going to put additional costs on top of it. It does not work that way. An accident medical expense benefit's an imperfect product. Why is it imperfect? Because it only covers accidents. What happens if you know, I have a heart attack? I mean, you're not going to do anything for me. Why should I spend money for half of it? Critical illness by itself is an imperfect product. Okay? I mean, why do I want to buy that? What happens if I fall off the ladder cleaning the gutters out? I don't get anything for it. I mean, all of these things are imperfect products, okay? That's why they're frequently and in most cases offered in bundles. It encompasses two distinct varieties, pure and mixed bundling. For our purposes, we employ mixed bundling techniques. They occur when consumers are offered a choice between purchasing the entire product offering or one or more of its separate parts. Buying behavior: a marketing firm must ascertain the nature of the customer's buying behavior if it is to market its product effectively. In order to entice and persuade a consumer to buy a product, marketers try to determine the behavioral process of how a given product is purchased. How are they purchased? A given product. I mean, it's difficult to ascertain this. I mean, when I would try to add an accident medical expense benefit to a health insurance policy previously, I missed most of the time. When I included it in the premium, I got it most of the time. The variable was where was the existing premium at I was competing against. Okay, if I can fit the accident medical expense benefit in there and it's saving them enough money that it's going to make them go for it, then I put it in there. If it's not and I try to add it just to give them the option, they're going to walk away from it. behavioral process of how a given product is purchased. The psychology of marketing is determined through the analysis of customer perception pertaining to brands, brands being that of products. Marketing theory holds that product attributes is primarily a matter of customer perception rather than product or service features, which is totally 100% factual. Customer perception. Marketing psychology, or psychology of marketing, rather than products or services based on customer perception. This is so important that when we get to this next page, we'll discuss it in a little bit more detail. Many companies today have a customer-focused market orientation. This implies that the company focuses its activities and products on consumer demands, in other words, a consumer-driven approach. In a consumer-driven approach, consumer wants are the drivers of all strategic marketing decisions. No strategy is pursued until it passes the test of consumer research. Every aspect of a market offering, including the nature of the product itself, is driven by the needs of the potential consumers. The determination of said need based on consumer demand is a never-ending process. You sell the product, and this is of ultimate importance, especially when we looked at consumer perception of a specific product. When I first started doing the bundling, I was selling the products, and I was falling flat on my face because I was defining critical illness and how good it was by itself. And I was defining accident disability income and how good it was by itself. And I was defining the accident medical expense product and how good it was by itself, and how combining these three products would beat disability income, okay, was a better aspect than disability income. In doing so, I more so confused the clients than I enlightened the clients. In doing so, I was lucky if I got one of those supplemental products per health insurance application. I had less than a 15% closing ratio on 3 products shown for purchase, and one of them accepted. Less than a 15%, not 50, 15% closing ratio. And for 2 or more products being accepted by that client and added to the health insurance policy, was less than a 5% closing ratio. So I had to do what customer orientation consists of. I was assessing the progress. I'm going, it's not worth it. I mean, I can go through 3 people for the period of time it takes me to go through 1 person. If I'm going to have to do that, I'm moving ahead, right? But we assess the progress. Then we fix it or improve it and make changes to it. Then we move forward. Well, in looking at that, there were certain things that I forgot to do, certain questions I'd forget to ask at certain points in times. Changing the perception of the product was of ultimate necessity. I knew what the product would do, but I had to change the perception of the product in order to market it effectively. In doing so, I eliminated, let's put it that way, the basis of definition of the product. What's going to happen is that we're going to protect your income. It's going to be an income replacement system. Okay? It's multiple products put into one course to provide one specific benefit, income replacement. In doing so, it changed all of the closing ratios dramatically. An agent in this market economy survives by selling products and services that consumers are willing and able to buy. Consequently, ascertaining customer perception is vital for an agent's future viability or even his or her existence in the healthcare arena. In coming up with income perception, it took me back. It took me back to when I did financial planning. It also took me back in the healthcare industry when I would have those few clients ask me about disability income. The ones that asked, in some instances, minor instances, I sold a couple of products. When I attempted to approach it in virtually all instances, for those that didn't have it, I sold 0 products. The reason I sold 0 products was premium, part of it, expensive to get a good benefit, and when we looked at the elimination periods, people rejected them. I mean, to get a decent benefit at a decent level of premium, you had 90 days, 180 days, in some cases 360 days before it would take effect. You had no benefit through that period of time. When people saw that elimination period in those links, they go, it's not worth it to me. I mean, hopefully nothing happens to me, but by that time, in 6 months, I'm getting Social Security. I don't need it right now. And that was the philosophy that they had. Now, when we change the income protection philosophy over to critical illness, it's an immediate payment. Accident medical expense benefit, for all intents and purposes, is an immediate payment. Accident and disability income, if we combine it with the accident medical expense benefit, not an immediate payment, but you can get it as low as 2 weeks. You can get it as low as 30 days for a very inexpensive amount of premium. So when you coordinate all 3 of them and you market it from the perspective of income replacement, making sure that you don't have to go to those savings accounts, or making sure that whatever you're putting into a savings account you're not going to have to stop doing, or making sure that you're not going to have to declare bankruptcy, or your home gets foreclosed on, or you lose one of your cars, or whatever transpires in that light, when we combine them, very inexpensive and very easy for them on a monthly basis to handle, generally within their premium basis. One important key to success is self-confidence. An important key to self-confidence is preparation. This, I have to tell you, is the most important aspect of the whole thing. Here's what the confidential questionnaire looks like. I put it in there it's a 1-page questionnaire now. You know, I got away from 2 pages because nobody ever used the 2nd page anyways. At least that would be my insight, because I never got any phone calls from people asking me, how do I explain this, how do I explain that, what if a client says this, what if a client says that. I mean, if you don't need help doing this, I mean, great. I mean, I think you're the best agent that ever walked on the face of this earth. I mean, it only took me 6 to 8 months to make this thing work properly. If you can do it in 1 presentation from me on a computer, then I take my hat off to you. I took it back to 1 page because you can leave the questions in front of you, and we'll get back to those shortly. But when we're looking at the Affordable Care Act, and when we're looking at quoting data and information that we have, and the reason that this is so important is I have no conceivable idea what a client wants the first time I talk to them. I have no idea where their head's at. I don't know what they understand or what they don't understand. I don't know where their finances are at. I don't know anything about that client. So how can somebody contact me over the phone stating I want to buy a health insurance policy through the Affordable Care Act, and I take them in to the Affordable Care Act, and I sell them that health insurance policy, and I sell them a critical illness plan, an accident plan, and an accident disability income plan, and a dental plan, all at one time. If you can do that, please teach me what you're doing. It's virtually impossible. That's what the CAM program did. And for those of you that were involved with it, it was virtually impossible. You cannot do that on a proposal without understanding that client first, and without that client understanding what you're doing. It's virtually impossible. Okay? Nobody out there understands what that client wants to accomplish or does not want to accomplish. Nobody does. And it's of ultimate importance that you, as the agent, walk them down the path that's going to lead them to doing the best job they can do for themselves and their family. Now, Kelly and I talked about a small company, a small group that I've got, where it's all individually underwritten, and the employer is paying for the whole thing with an increase in income, including taxes and Social Security, to his employees. Contrary to where we were at when we did some stuff, I'm doing my proposal with these employees, I'm explaining everything to them, and come to find out, the employer actually, although he has it, did not want to pay for the accident medical expense benefit and the critical illness benefit. All we did was covered out-of-pocket expenses on the health insurance plan. Each one of his employees were at a max of $12,700 out of pocket. They all took silver plans. Their average cost, referencing the critical illness and accident medical expense plan, was about $70, $75. But because of the way it was approached and because of the way it was explained, the employer contacted me in front of one of his employees. He's going, I didn't realize this was in there. And I'm going, well, I thought you did. And I thought what you wanted me to do was explain the same thing to your employees. And this was when the employee wasn't sitting there, but explain the same thing to your employees that you had. He goes, no, I'll pay for their health insurance. They want anything else that's on their back. He said, take those things off of their policies, which would have been 3 separate policies I had to take accident and critical illness off of, which I would just pay the full commission. I'm going, oh man, and now I got chargebacks coming in on this, which would have been fine. I mean, it's at the employer's request, and that's what I need to do. I contacted each one of the employees to let them know what we were going to be doing, and that I needed a signature for one of the products. All 3 of the employees kept the accident and critical illness. They decided to fund it on their own. When it's explained properly, it's done the right way for protection of your family and your assets, we're going to replace your income, at least for that. At least to cover your out-of-pocket expenses, okay? And that, if you're making $65,000 a year and you got $12,700 out of pocket, that's going to be at least 2 months worth of income. At least 2 months, probably 2.5, closer to 3 months worth of income. And we're saving that for you. We're making sure you can pay your bills. We're making sure the kids don't get hungry. We're making sure you don't lose a car. We're making sure you don't have people calling you every day of the week trying to get money out of you for this reason or that reason when you're trying to recover. Okay. Every single one of them kept those plans. I mean, I was actually, I mean, it was easy to sell it to them because the employer's paying for it. And I was somewhat flabbergasted. I mean, I expected to lose. One of them I was fairly confident they would keep it. The other 2 I thought I was going to lose, and I ended up keeping all 3. So let's go through this for a minute now. It's been restructured and redone. The Affordable Care Act, prospect, age, Social Security number, everything's in here for every member of the family. So the Affordable Care Act, but for supplemental product purposes. You do not want to have to duplicate, ask them the same question 2 or 3 times going down the road. So when they're doing the Affordable Care Act, you're not asking them for date of birth right now or Social Security number. At the beginning, you are asking them for age. You are asking them for county they live in and what you already know what state they live in. And you can put their zip code down if you choose. This is what you need. You don't need names. All you need is age, county, state, and that's about it. And you're quoting health care for these people. The rest of this you fill in when you're doing the Affordable Care Act applications so that you have it available for the supplemental applications. The current health insurance, what do they have? You want to know that. That tells you about buying habits that they have. You need to understand their buying habits in order for you to market and bring out a program to them. Did they already insured with the Affordable Care Act, yes or no? If yes, was it a navigator or an agent that sold it to them? If it's a navigator, you have no competition. If it's an agent, you may have competition. Depends on whether they're still in the business or not, and whether that agent's going to be contacting them over what period of time. And which plan did you have, the bronze, silver, or gold? Income status. You need to know this, don't you? You know, you got to have that in order to quote properly to see what the subsidies are going to be. But we all know that in most cases they give us a subsidy even on healthcare exchange, and that subsidy is not accurate when you get into the product. But whatever, that's fine. What we're looking at with the income status is we need to know where they stand. If you have the right types of things in front of you, and I don't have them because, I mean, I don't have the premiums yet. I checked this morning to see if premiums were available yet, and they're not. And what I'm trying to reference is we've got a new table for the poverty levels. As well, we're going to have new premiums. If we take and put a chart together for ourselves, which references premiums, silver plans. I mean, I've never sold one bronze. I've only sold one gold. 90% of what I market silver. So I use the silver plans. I'm going to know pretty much where that client's at and where the subsidy is going to be if I run incomes like I did on the one proposal page, 55, 65, 75, 85, and 95. I'm going to know what's going to happen with that client, so I'm going to want to know his income level in order to start marketing supplemental products in advance without ever mentioning the supplemental products. We also need the income level to quote the health insurance. But this is where we start our sales process referencing supplemental products. We want to know medication. We start a sales process there. I mean, a couple of things happened that I was not happy with. One of my clients had a fairly expensive medication that was covered by Assurance, and we were moving him from Assurance to the ACA. And this guy's a fanatic on coverage. He wants the best he can buy. And in Michigan, the Blue Cross Premier was the best he could buy. And when I went through Blue Cross's prescription drug coverage to see everybody had their drugs there, and his drug was not specifically mentioned, but they did mention they covered corticosteroids. And in doing so, you know, I called them and said, this is a corticosteroid, is it covered? And gave them the name of the medication. They came back to me and said yes. We went into the program. Come to find out, it's not. I don't know what the agent did. The agent did what I almost did, which was assumed it was a corticosteroid, and so it's not going to be a problem. I didn't. I called. I received the wrong information. I gave that information to them. They're spending an extra $300 to $400 out of pocket now on medication every month. My fault. Blue Cross's fault. Whose other fault is irrelevant. They're the ones paying the price for it. We're just fortunate that the premium was reduced enough that covers that cost, but that cost wasn't supposed to be there to start with. Same thing with doctors. I mean, I had one of my clients that went into a Blue Cross Select. Come to find out that she was intelligent enough, which again spurred me on to put doctors in the confidential questionnaire. She was intelligent enough to call her doctor to see if they took the Select. They didn't. They took the Preferred. So we had to change plans before she paid the premium, which is what we did. Her doctor would have been out of network. Okay? I mean, those two items caused me to put both medication and doctors in there. I didn't have them in there before, although I wrote them down. They're in there now for your purposes, so you've got something to keep you on track. Here's the question. If you had the opportunity to design your own health insurance plan, would you consider to be most important instruction here? I mean, the question's there. Change the question if you want. The only reason the question's in there, and you need to use this form because it keeps you on track. You understand what's happening if you're using this form every single time on every single client. Change the question if you choose. I mean, you know, what do you want to put in there? I mean, it doesn't make any difference what you ask them. You know, how do you feel about health insurance? What worries you most about purchasing a different form of health insurance than you have right now? I mean, there's a million questions you could ask them. a million things you could define or do whatever you need to do with. And then at the end down here, the ACA covers which companies you use, what's the policy number, what's the ACA ID number. You're going to need that ACA ID number, as I think I mentioned this to you previously, that we are now able to take care of our clients for up to 1 year. If there is a problem in their situation, we don't have to call in every 2 weeks and get permission to take care of a client. Okay? I mean, we can get it done at our leisure, I guess, if you want to call it that. It doesn't have to be anything that's imperative or immediate. We've got 1 year's access to all information for that client through the ACA. Now, I don't know what the insurance companies are doing yet. Blue Cross hadn't published a lot on that as of yet, so I don't know where we stand with that. But everything, you've got all the information you need for that particular client. So this form, not only for the ACA, giving you information you need to know, but as well, this form, I mean, gives you the information you need to have when you need specific Social Security numbers or whatever may be there to help do the supplemental applications. Now, are your healthcare objectives properly structured? Here's some questions you can talk to them about. From your perspective, what's the most important component of a health insurance policy? Don't forget about asking these types of things. They're of ultimate importance. Just what time the confidential questionnaire is not going to give you the insight you need to market those supplemental products. This gives you insight to the client's or the prospect's knowledge of health insurance. It tells you what benefits are most important to that prospect. What do they need? Although we are limited, and I mean, we are so limited in our ability to market health insurance now, it's unbelievable. Much less than it was previously. But you still have to have this information in order to do the right job. It lets you discuss positives and or negatives of the benefits before the closing presentation, allowing you to concentrate on specific items during the sales process. In other words, if you look at this thing and you know by the information you've got in the confidential questionnaire that their current plans with Golden Rule, and it's got $1,000 or $2,000 deductible and $3,000 out of pocket on an 80/20, $5,000 total out of pocket. And you know for a fact, because of the chart you put together, their income is going to put them at $12,700 out of pocket. You can discuss that with them in advance. You can get that negative out of the way. They can understand that, you know, there's going to be ways that we'll be able to help you take care of that. Okay, hopefully it's going to produce a lower premium, but I haven't seen it yet. So, you know, don't expect too many things to take place. You know, you'll be able to chat with them in advance about prescription drugs. You'll be able to chat with them in advance that okay, with the particular plan you may choose, there may not be any doctor's visits available until after the deductible's been satisfied. We know for a fact that we're not going to pay for any prescription drugs until your deductible's been satisfied. Get those negatives out of the way before you get to the actual presentation. That's the importance of knowing this information in advance. Can you tell me how often you use your health insurance? Are they hypochondriacs, or do they have normal claims for their family? Do they need full benefits, or would you be content with a limited benefit plan, such as what Assurance just brought out? Might be what Golden Rule is bringing out as well. I don't know for sure, because Golden Rule were the ones that started. But Assurance got a 4-doctor visit per family member benefit out there. It's also got 100% of doctor visit benefit out there. One's going to be less expensive than the other. Is it going to fit their needs? Is it going to help you going to the 4-doctor visit limited benefit, so you can add another 60 or 70 a month in for the critical illness and or the out-of-pocket expense, right? Referencing the accident benefits. Okay, I mean, how's it going to work? It's going to tell you pretty much everything you need to know about that particular part of it. Were you aware that in 2010, 60% of all bankruptcies? Now, why would you ask this, or why would you notify them of this? I mean, you get it out of the way. Well, this is what they said the Affordable Care Act was for. It was going to eliminate all the bankruptcies in the United States. Well, how is it that you make $65,000 a year and 28% of your income is going to be spent on premium and out-of-pocket expenses. Okay? With $12,700 out of pocket, and you don't have 2 nickels to rub together. You don't have a savings account. You're in that asset poor basis. How are you going to survive? And that's the purpose of this. These people had insurance, 77.9% of them. Tells you how much they know about the ACA before it was implemented. Opens the door for the discussion you want to have before the actual sales presentation. You want to be able to discuss these things. I mean, you're going to be able to really handle it. Okay, you know. This question gives you the ability to educate your prospect referencing the possibility of substantially higher out-of-pocket expenses. Do you have the financial wherewithal to cover the high cost of the long-term expenses connected with a serious accident or illness? Can you afford 3 or 4 months off work? Can you afford 6? Can you afford a year? How much time can you actually afford off of work? Isn't that an important element with what you're attempting to do with them? I mean, some people like Jeff Williams, Jeff and I have had a couple of different conversations referencing critical illness. Jeff likes to not only provide out-of-pocket expense being eliminated for the health insurance, but he also likes to provide 6 months worth of income via the critical illness and accident disability income. So, I mean, he's got what he likes to do with his particular clients. You may like 3 months worth of income. You might like just for taking care of the out-of-pocket expenses. But if you don't have these questions answered, you don't know if it's there or not. You don't have any way to come back and have any discussion with a client. Well, you told me you couldn't afford to do that. So it's of ultimate necessity that we do this. Why? Well, I mean, are you trying to tell me you don't want to spend $70 a month, but you want to give your home away? And is there anything else you can think of that we need to talk about right now? You know, what other things do you have on your mind referencing the Affordable Care Act, blah, blah, blah? A confidential questionnaire is the most important element you have in marketing supplemental products. If you don't use it, if you don't ask these questions, if you don't understand what those questions are referencing, I mean, don't try to sell them because it's not going to happen. Once in a great while, you'll get lucky. Here's a cheat sheet referencing everything surrounding statistics for accidents, for cancer, for coronary events, for strokes, our populace. This tells you everything there is. Use it. I mean, figure out what you want to talk about, you know. I mean, think about this, Bill. I mean, you just bought a new car, you got collision, you got everything on it, it's covered. What happens if you get in a car wreck? Your car's fixed. You pay your deductible, what, maybe $500, $1,000? Your car's fixed. I mean, it was pretty serious accident. You were in the hospital for a week. You're not going to be able to go back to work for 3, 4 weeks, maybe 3, 4 months. Your car insurance covers your income. What does your health insurance do? It doesn't do anything. It puts you in debt, $12,700. There's no debt with your car insurance. There's no debt with your homeowner's insurance. There's no debt with your life insurance, but that's because you're gone. The only type of insurance that leaves you in debt if something serious happens to you is health insurance. We need to make sure that's taken care of. We need to make sure that's protected. And the purpose of the webinar is threefold. The third aspect is to provide you with a simplified, effective, client-oriented presentation. There are no secrets to success. It's the result of preparation and hard work and learning from failure. And I fell flat on my face with this thing so many times it was unbelievable. Finally, everything started to click. I knew what I had to do. I knew how to do it. I just needed to lay it out. I mean, if you were in my hierarchy, when we used to have classes once a month, I mean, the presentation format for the questions and everything that was coming down with those questions, as well as the presentation itself, once we got to it, I mean, there must have been, over a 6-month period of time, 6 changes and to what order that presentation would lay itself out in. It takes time. You cannot do what I do You can only do what you're best at. So we go back to consumer orientation again. This is one thing you need to have behind you. You need to understand this. If you don't even try what we're doing. It's not going to be a benefit to you. Psychology of marketing is determined through the analysis of customer perception pertaining to brands. Marketing theory holds that product attributes is primarily a matter of customer perception rather than product or service features. The customer has to perceive what you're doing. They have to understand what you're doing is going to benefit them. The more you get into detail, the more problems you're going to have. An agent in this market economy survives by selling products and services that consumers are willing and able to buy. Ascertaining customer perception is vital for an agent's future viability or even his or her existence in the healthcare arena. This is of ultimate importance. I mean, you can talk to anybody out there, tell them I am not going to put any pressure on you. I'm going to lay a proposal out and give you a couple of weeks to think about it. I want to talk to you about disability income, and virtually every small business person out there, and if not him, at least his spouse, because his wife is thinking about it more than he is, 90% of the time, will sit down with you and let you give them that proposal. It's something every single one of them want. It's something that, due to the benefit structure and the nature of the product and the premium involved with the product, 99% of them will not buy. We've restructured the nature of the product. Okay? We've given them, rather than a 90-day elimination period, a pay on cause basis for accident and or for diagnosis of a critical illness. Okay? We've given them a totally different ballgame. It's paid now. It's paid today. It's the first day. There's no waiting any longer. We're going to protect your family at least through that 2 or 3 month period of time. Okay? So, ascertaining customer perception is vital. This process, this process is never ending for me. I'm changing it constantly. I'm always changing it, trying to make it better, trying to achieve that 100% mark. I'm never going to achieve it. The way it's at right now, I'm at plus 75% closing ratio for 2 to 3 products. I'm at plus 85% for 1 product. I'll always walk away with at least 1 supplemental product. Here's the key. Every aspect of a market offering, including the nature of the product itself, is driven by the needs of potential consumers. The determination of said need based on consumer demand is a never-ending process. You will be altering what you're doing with this on a continuous basis. You use it like it's laid out for you initially. You start to understand it a little bit better as you fall flat on your face, and you will. Okay? But as you start to understand it, the more times you fall flat on your face, the better it's going to be in the long term. We all have to fail to succeed. It's impossible not to do that. I wish I could define something that was of ultimate clarity, that you'd be able to understand everything, and that your clients, based on how you market, would understand what was coming across. Not going to happen. You don't sell the same way I do. You may be stronger than I am in certain areas. I'm stronger than you are in certain areas. Doesn't make any difference. Use what you've got. Work with it. It's a never-ending process determining consumer demand. It will always be a process you're working with, you're changing, you're restructuring. The presentations, if we look at them, they're laid out here. They are not. The presentations you'll get will have PowerPoint access for them. You'll be able to break them down. Everything here, individuals, Blue Care Network. Now, this is 1 product. However you want to market, whatever you need to do, it's all going to be here, and will all be in a PowerPoint format whereby you'll be explaining each particular benefit individually. When we get to dental, accident, critical illness, I say critical illness. I'm not going to lie to them about the definition of the product. critical illness, meaning if you have a serious illness, I mean, on the day of the diagnosis, we're going to get you a check for 25 grand or for 13 or for 15 or for 10 or whatever benefit is that you're providing there, making sure that it's not going to take away from your income and it's not going to take away from your family's ability to pay the bills and eat their food. Right? So these are the presentations. This is so simplistic. The whole process, once you understand it, once you learn it, the confidential questionnaire and this presentation, not counting, of course, filling out applications and so on and so forth. The whole process is a maximum of 1 hour. That's all it takes. And your average commission with this thing, based on where you're at and what you're getting paid, I don't know what the comp is for a lot of the products, Humana and so on and so forth. But your average commission per case for a family of 4 is probably going to be around, I can't even talk about that. But out of 11 apps, I had 8 people that qualified for it. I had one of them that only bought dental. But out of 11 apps that went into the ACA, we'll say 7 of them purchased, turned into $7,500 in income rather than $3,000. So it was a pretty good process. So this is where we're sitting with it. Everything that you get, you'll get copies of virtually everything we've got here. Here's the dental. This is also set up in a PowerPoint program. I had a question that was sent to me in an email that said, can you define the ShareBridge presentation for us? There's no ShareBridge presentation. If it's not proposed along with the healthcare, it's irrelevant. You're probably not going to close it. And the individual, the managing general agent, when we had our conversation a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about that, he said, yeah, I still got people out there struggling trying to sell it separately. What they're afraid of is they're afraid they're going to lose the healthcare sale. You're not going to lose the healthcare sale. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, think about this. You know, think about the fact that you close a bunch of healthcare cases, then you go back. And the client understands what you're doing going back with a critical illness and an accident and maybe some accident disability income. They understand what you're doing. And then what are you going to do when the client says, what would have happened to me if I'd have been diagnosed with cancer over the last couple months? What would your answer be? Oh, well, I don't know. I didn't have time to do it then, but I can do it now. You're the one that has the responsibility to make sure that things take place for that consumer in hopefully the right way. At least propose it. You know, I mean, you need to work it. You need to fail. I mean, one of the quotes that we had up previously with Tony Robbins, you know, the truth of the matter is that there's nothing you can't accomplish, you know, if you notice what's working and not working. Right? And the only way to notice that's to work it. Don't do one case and it doesn't work and then say this thing don't work. I mean, that's not the case. You need to understand what you're doing. You can't understand what you're doing by trying to propose at one time. And you continue to change your approach. I mean, a nice presentation here. And if we go backwards, nice presentation here. If you don't like the way it is, then change it. Change it to suit you. Okay? It's not mandatory that any of this stuff be done specifically the way that I do it. It's a format. I tell you right now, the format works. If it doesn't work for you, it's because you're not working. The format will work. Define the presentation, design it around your capabilities and your experience. Okay? And then we've got, again, Kelly's quote. He took it away from me and used it, but I still like it because it's factual. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. And that's where you're at. We're all starting over again. We can't change what we did in the past, but we can certainly improve on what we're doing for the future. So, questions? There's the contact information. Now I guess we can start looking at questions on the board. I should have done this earlier, but I decided to wait. Hopefully there's going to be some there. There's Billy Moore. Billy, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, John, I'm not sure I understand how to utilize that level of poverty information. You know, to find out what a person's poverty level is, to know what their subsidy will be. How do you explain that? Can you explain that so that I can understand it? Or maybe I'm not the only one that doesn't understand it.
I think I'm understanding what you want. You want me to explain how I use that chart to determine what's going to transpire with the client?
Yeah, when it says that, for example, 133% of poverty level, so and so, you know, there's a dollar amount there. How do you relate that to a client that's in front of you or a client that you're interviewing so that you can get a grasp of what they would qualify for?
Well, I mean, they don't see it. They don't understand it. All I do is look at their adjusted gross income. I mean, how many people do you know out there have got, well, whatever, let's forget that part of it for right now. But I look at their adjusted gross income. If 138% of poverty level for a family of four is $32,000, okay, and they're earning $40,000, okay, what's going to transpire is that the husband and wife are going to qualify for the health insurance and the children are going to qualify for CHIP.
No, but what I mean is, now are you saying take the gross income, and then take 133% of that gross income, and that's
No. The federal poverty level chart references what income levels will qualify you for Medicaid and or potentially qualify you for actuarial value changes.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. That's the part to me that's kind of confusing.
Okay. On your chart, and I don't have a chart in front of me, but on your chart, let me see what I can do here.
You might ask, you know, anybody else listening here if they have a better way of understanding that.
Not hard to, I mean, it's very simplistic. Probably to look at it, it's going to make it easier.
Billy, also, if you're on ACA rate quote, which I believe you are, just by putting them into going to your website and putting them into that simple quote section, after you hit, you know, see my plans, it's going to show what their poverty level is. It's going to show their premium amount, or I mean the percentage, and it's also going to show, you know, what they qualify for a subsidy right then and there. That makes it pretty easy. If you do have that system, you can just put in their information.
Right now, he's got a chart up there, for example, and it's like 138%, for example, of poverty level. If there's two people in the family, what is that $15,000? $15,856. What is that? Is that 138% of their gross income?
No,
that's what 100%. That's what 150 or 38% of the poverty level equals out to. So the government has a standard set poverty level that they have, and then you take your family size, and based off of that family size, you'll be able to, if their income is, let's say, $16,000, then you're going to know, and their family size is 1, then you're going to know that they're around 138% of the poverty limit. That helps you when determining subsidies, and I think John will go on a little more on that, but that's what that is that's the number amount, the set number of their income that they need to hit to meet those levels. So if they're over that 15,856 and their family size is 1, or for instance on a family size of 4, if they're over the 32,499 mark, then you know that they're over that 138% threshold for the FPL.
Okay.
Yeah, Billy, when you're looking at Michigan, for example, And I changed this chart from the original chart that was out. I put the 138% in there. I took the 133 out because the 133 was irrelevant. Why they had it to start with, I don't know. Because Michigan took the Medicaid funds from the federal government and accepted the 138 poverty level. But if you took the, as you mentioned, on the two-person family size, you take the 15,510, multiply it by 1.38, you're going to come up with $21,404. If you have a client that earns $21,404 and that's all that him and his wife earns, then you don't even need to do anything with him. He's going to go to Medicaid. You follow what I'm saying?
I think so.
Okay. If, I mean, anything above that, between the 138 and a 250, and I didn't put the 250 in there, it wasn't necessary, because the ACA will tell you that. But anything above the 138, between 138 and 250, the client, and let's say we're using a family of 4, you're looking at $32,499. Anything above that, the husband and wife will definitely qualify for the Affordable Care Act. In some instances, the children will not. Like you may be at $40,000 in income, and at $40,000 in income for a family of 4, the children are going to qualify for CHIP. The husband and wife will qualify for the ACA. So, and the only way you understand these things is to run quotes through the ACA, through healthcare.gov. Then you'll see what's going to transpire at each income level. You understanding what I'm saying now?
Barely. It's still kind of confusing to me, but.
Well, you need to just go in there and run some sample quotes and use different income levels like I did on that one chart where I had 55,000 to 125. Okay, and it'll show you variables and what comes out for qualification for families. I mean, like you put 55,000 in there for a family of 5, and the mother and dad's going to qualify for the ACA, the kids are going to qualify for CHIP. Okay, and it's strange how it does that, but that's what they do. So you just running quotes will give you an idea as to where you stand with it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm going to mute you now. Any other questions out there for anybody? If there is, type it in. Raise your hand real quick. I don't see anything anyplace. So at this particular point in time, I got a feeling that we're done with everything. Back up with this.
Jeff, did you have a question?
John, I just wanted to know the ACA ID number. Is that the number that they get on their letter, on their application, or where do you get the ACA ID number? What are you referencing there?
They give it to you at the completion of the application.
Right.
And then it will be used for all communications from that point out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. All right, so no questions. Hopefully we did a little bit better job this time than we did the last time. Again, if you're not going to use the confidential questionnaire, then good luck. You know, that's all I can say. With it, your closing ratio will be phenomenal. You'll find out that a lot of clients really care about this stuff, and that you need to understand specifically where they're coming from in order for you to approach the marketing process properly. So other than that, I don't know if Brent's got anything to say. Brent, you got anything out there?
No, you guys, just to be updated, we're just going to be adding some more webinars in the next week. One in particular is going to be with Golden Rule or United Health One, going over their plans. It's going to be with Eric Stranko, our rep for them. And we're looking to also launch or bring on a tool, much like ACA Rate Quote. It's called ACA Express, and it's more of an enrollment assistant that's going to help you do some of this stuff. It's actually going to help you be able to cross-sell and package pretty quickly. It's just mainly a time management deal that's going to let you very easily and quickly enroll people over their system. So ACA Express is a technology company, and they've made something much like Norvax's eHealth or Health Connect system that they have. Very similar, but just lets you to speed up and expedite the process as you're enrolling people with their system. So we're going to be, stay tuned for an update on that. I'm going to be working hard to get those webinars nailed down. But other than that, I mean, for John, if you could give advice on these agents now that we have, you know, for those that were on the call today, the next step of what they should be doing after this webinar until open enrollment, what would you say would be the most important thing that they need to be doing now that they know this material and that they're going to be being sent these materials?
I would think that some of what they were going to be doing is going to be role playing, understanding what they're doing. I mean, the first contact you have with a client is going to be to schedule a time to get the proper information so that you'll be able to propose the proper plan to them from the ACA. Whether it's one-legged or two-legged, whatever it may be, make sure you practice and you understand, although you have the cheat sheets in front of you, there will be scenarios whereby the client's going to make a statement, and that statement's going to fit specifically where you need it to if you have the right reply. So you need to study the statistics. You need to understand the out-of-pocket expenses and how detrimental that's going to be to a client. You need to make sure that you can derive the information from them properly. You know, like if you're uncomfortable with the question, I mean, there's a million ways you can ask things. Like, if it's satisfactory with you, I need to ask you a few quick questions to get a little bit of better understanding of what you would like me to accomplish for you. Or I need to ask you a quick question about finances. It's going to be a generalized, you know, so don't, you know, I don't really need specifics, but you have at least 3 months of income in a savings or investment account. I mean, every single client is different. My daughter talked to me the other day because she's in marketing. She said, you know something, Dad, I got to thank you for one thing. A couple of months ago, and since then, I cannot believe the progress I've made with the organization I'm with. Let me give you an example of the progress she's made. I mean, her check last month was $8 grand. Okay, but she said the one thing that rang true is, from a marketing perspective, put yourself at the same level as your prospective client. Like, some people will understand the definition of ergo, okay? Other people will not. Don't use that word with the people that won't. Okay? I mean, that's of ultimate importance. If you do not understand that client, you're not going to make the sale, period. I mean, it's easy to do the replacement garbage. I mean, oh, hey, the Affordable Care Act here, you're paying $1,000 a month. They're going to give you a $400 subsidy. You're only going to get $600 a month from me. That's easy. That's chump change. That's a piece of cake. You're not a salesman doing that shit. You're an order taker. Okay? Now, you see, I'm supposed to bring this to everybody's level. I don't know what everybody's level is, so you get mine. You need to understand them. You know, I guess that's all I can say. Practice understanding clients. Practice understanding what they want and where they go, what they need to do. Practice making sure that they're not going to get eaten alive by $12,700 out of pocket on a catastrophic claim. That's all I can say right now, Brent. That's what they should be doing.
All right, no, well said, well said. So definitely, guys, if you don't have your script down, that's the biggest thing, is You have the automated responses down. So when someone asks you a question, you know exactly where you're going with it. You know exactly what you're going to say. There's a lot of ways to say something, but there's only one best way to say it. So find out with your personality and with your style what the best way to tackle, each response. We call them lambs. When I say Mary had a little, you know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be lamb. So have those automated responses. It's embedded into your mind that when someone asks you a question regarding these stuff, that you know exactly where you're going to go with it. You know the best response to each and everything. There's only about 5 or 6 things that they could possibly say. So you just need 5 or 6 responses that are really good with that. And know your scripts. If you know your scripts, you're going to come across a lot better, and your sales are going to go through the roof just by knowing what you're going to say and knowing your information well. So be practicing that. And if you have any other questions, I know John had his info up on the screen. You can contact me as well at info@nmgins.com or give me a call at 810-771-8744. So look forward to hearing from you guys. Hope it's the best for you guys, and if you have any questions, let us know. Other than that, we will see you for question and answers next Wednesday. Thank you so much.